Welcome everybody. I know that the title of this video suggests that it's a remake of my previous video, and honestly, it is. Right you are, 50 points for whichever house you belong to. Let me summarize this story so that we can move on with today's video. Somewhere along the way I felt that the quality of the first video was not good, which is why I decided to remake it. With that out of the way, let's move on to the topic of this video, properties in C#. There are many uses and applications of properties, but the reason I use them is so I can reduce the number of objects that I need to create. More on this towards the end of the video. Now, there are a few prerequisites that you need in order to completely understand the concept of properties, the understanding of data types, access specifiers, class communication, and the static keyword. Apart from the first one, the rest of these concepts come under object-oriented programming. If you are doubtful about any of these, feel free to check out the videos that I have made on these topics or any other resources if that's what you want. Okay, let's begin. So as you can see, I have two classes over here, a.cs and b.cs. Now these are just example classes, which is why I've just called them A and B for the sake of the video. But when it comes to real life problem solving, I would suggest that you give your classes some proper names. Alright, now the traditional way of class communication is this, right? I mean, this is what we've learned so far, and if you're going to college, this is what they probably teach you. Correct me if I'm wrong. So if I want something from class A to be used in class B, that means that something would need to be a public property of class A. Now, do note that class B does not derive from class A, so protected does not make any sense. So the only way so far is to make an object or a method public in class A and then create an object of class A in class B, and with the help of that object create a variable or a reference variable or an object of that particular data member. Quite confusing. Okay, so this is how you traditionally do it. So maybe I want a public bool, for example. This true equals true. Right now, if I want this is true to be accessible in B, I would need to create a example object, a example obj. Let's do that. And then suppose in my void update, don't worry if you don't know what start and update is, not required in this video. They're just methods. Okay, so we can check for that then, right? If example obj dot is true, then print something. Okay, this is legitimate, and this is what we need to do. This is what we've been doing. But now, with using properties, you don't need to create this object. Hence, you save on some space. All right, let me show you how the same thing can be done with properties. I'm going to leave this particular thing here so that we can compare. Okay. With the help of properties, now, this is what I do. Okay. So what I like to do is have a public static bool, let's call it, is false. Okay. Now I've put the curly brackets, and let's see what the error is. The a dot is false. Property or indexer must have at least one accessor. That's correct. Now, what I'm going to do here is get and private set. Having done this, I do need to initialize this. So is false actually equals false. Okay. Two new keywords that we have come across, set and get. And now let's see what happens. I can directly come in here and say else if a dot is false, print something else. What did we just do? We saved ourselves from creating one object. Okay, let's understand what's happening. So a property is like a method, but it differs in some ways. So you may have observed that methods require, apart from curly brackets, circular brackets. But here we did not have any circular brackets. Also, we must use this get keyword and set keyword inside properties. Now, the meaning of get and set is exactly what they mean. Get allows or defines which classes can have access to is false, and set defines which classes can modify the value of is false. In our case, we have get and private set. When we say private, we already know that if any method or object is private, then only its parent class or the class in which it belongs to can modify the value or can access the value. And what about this? Get does not have any specific access specifier. Well, the reason behind that is inside a property, by default, the access specifier is the one of the parent. Now, what's the parent of this? It's this one. And what's the access specifier of the parent? It's public. Hence, by default, get is also public. Now, this is a little different from our normal way of programming, because normally, by default, the access specifier of every variable and method is private. But this is a case where by default, it is not private, which is why in my video of access specifiers, I specifically said that you need to specify which access specifier you want. Always do that, because in this case, it gets a little confusing. But I hope I made it clear. Right? And it's not necessary that you use it with bool only. You can use this with other data types as well. But the thing that is required, however, is that you must initialize it. Okay? So in this case, it's okay. If I don't initialize it, it's probably all right. I mean, it is all right. It's not necessary to initialize normal variables, right? You can get along without initializing them. But here, since we can't just do this, right? That's wrong. See, I start getting errors. So the way to initialize a property or the value of a property is inside the method in your class, which you know is going to be the first one to be executed or the first one to be called. In my class, in which the property belongs, that's class A, the first method that's going to be executed is void start, which is why I initialized is false inside void start. As good programmers, we must strive for our programs to be efficient. To achieve the state of efficiency, our program must take as little time as possible to be executed and must consume as little memory as possible, both primary and secondary. One way of managing memory is to control or reduce the number of variables that we create in our program. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I use the concept of properties to reduce the number of objects I create. And what are objects other than a different name for reference variables? See, it all ties up together. Every variable you create stores some memory. Before we break, I'd like to take a moment to go through the documentation of properties. I have it open right here and I'll leave the link in the description. You can check it out if you want. And I highly recommend that you do. It's only a 4-minute read, as they say. A property is a member that provides a flexible mechanism to read, write, or compute the value of a private field. Properties can be used as if they are public data members, but they are actually special methods called accesses. This enables data to be accessed easily and still helps promote the safety and flexibility of methods. A few things to note here. A get property access is used to return the property value, and a set property access is used to assign a new value. These accesses can have different access levels. Okay, so they have a few examples over here as well. My example was really short because really I believe that if you want to know the theory and want to look at examples, you have plenty of websites. You don't need to watch videos for that. So just go through this documentation really quickly. It's only 4 minutes, as they said. They've got a couple of examples here. Go through these, and if there's something that you didn't understand, or if there's something that requires a little more explanation, do let me know in the comments down below. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel. It boosts my morale. Before you leave, one small announcement. I'm bringing my Game Talks videos here on YouTube, and if you're interested in some bite-sized information about games, the technology behind games, game development, do check it out. I'll leave the playlist in a card above and in the description below. Thank you very much once again, and have a good day or a good night whenever you're watching this.